Arc Junkies presents Weld Wednesday with AWS. Brought to you by the American Welding Society. And now your host, Jason Becker.
All right, Ivan, welcome to FabTech 2022. What do you think of Atlanta?
Oh, it's big.
It's a pretty massive hall. I mean,
Yeah,
compared
nice,
to
yeah.
because we met up in Chicago last year, that was a much smaller show because, the pandemic, a lot of companies were like, we're not going this year. We're going to stay reserved, but now everything's back in full swing.
Yeah, it's definitely full swing. It was tricky finding you.
Yeah. So what have you been up to since we met last year? I know you got a bunch of cool projects going on in the shop.
Yeah, I mean, since last year, I've just been making artwork and just kind of keeping going with the same things I've been doing. So making lots of sculptures and getting more recognition, starting to get into bronze work and stuff. So
Very cool.
Yeah,
I've got some that are like little beard braids. I went to the medieval fair last weekend,
Nice.
and the lady does custom bronze work and all that stuff in little ingots. So she actually made the armband for the show Vikings.
Oh, no kidding. Nice.
So I think that'd be a cool one to get into, like bronze castings and all that. You got your own smelting pot and everything set up?
No, actually, I'm fortunate. There's a guy. He started out as a taxidermist, and then he became a sculptor and started sculpting in clay. And he, would take it to a foundry and get it done. And he couldn't find anyone that he thought could do a good enough job. He just kept getting back work that he wasn't satisfied with. And so he decided, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And since then, he's become one of the premier bronze casters. And he's literally just south of me.
Okay.
And his name's Roger Smith, and he runs Michigan Art Castings. And so he's got a full foundry there, so I can just go in there and work with him. He's got everything that you need there, and he's killing it. He's got stuff in the Smithsonian now. For God's sakes. It's really cool having him close. Yeah.
So have you gotten into the whole process of doing the castings and all that?
Oh yeah, he actually walked a few years back. Went down there and visited with him, and he walked me through the shop. I actually made a YouTube video about just him showing here's the whole process. Here's how we make a mold of the sculpture, and here's how we take that, pour wax into it, and here's the slurry we dip it in, then roll it in the sand, let it sit for a day, do that again, then move to this one, then move to that one, and how they have chemicals in them so that when they dry, they turn a certain color so you know when it's ready for the next step. And
wow.
The whole process, it's really cool.
What do they call that, lost wax?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so then, you take that and you stick it in the kiln, and when you fire it, the outer shell that you've created through all those dippings becomes like a hard ceramic shell, and all the wax melts out, leaves that cavity, and then you can fill that in with bronze. Yeah, and for the larger pieces, you have to make a bunch of separate sections, make a bunch of separate waxes that will all fit together to make that piece, and then cast them all separately, weld them all together, and then chase all the welds so it looks like one solid piece of bronze, but it's actually only about 1/4 of an inch thick.
Oh,
a lot of people don't realize that. They see a statue of a guy standing there and they think, oh, it's a solid bronze. No, it's hollow.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be the more cost-effective way of doing things.
Yeah, but at the same time, really time-consuming. But I mean, that's kind of how you have to do it, because with shrinkage and stuff, there's only so much you can cast at once for thicknesses and stuff without ending up with really big issues. So you kind of have to do that shell. And now the biggest thing is if you're not good enough at welding the bronze and then chasing the welds, you'll be able to tell where the connection points are, and you see that a lot in some sculpture. That's the kind of stuff he was running into, where he was like, I'm going to just do my own thing.
Just do my own thing, yeah.
And now he's got people from all over the world, having him do their bronze casting.
So now how do they go about welding it out? Which process are they using,
TIG.
oxy-fuel or TIG?
TIG, yeah.
Nice.
They probably used oxy-fuel back in the day, but it's TIG now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, some places, they want to do it the hard way. They want to do it
traditional,
traditional methods and stuff like that, just to kind of, maintain that integrity of doing it. And then I think there's a certain respect that goes along with that too.
Oh, absolutely.
But then also, if you're running a business, you're doing stuff, you got to crank out volume. It's cool to adopt technology.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, and also the heat affected zone, that's part of it too. Is even if you are doing it there's certain things, there's certain reasons why we do things differently now than we used to.
Yeah.
So you can really control that heat affected zone and really make it a lot easier to do what you need to do, run and TIG, than you can with oxy-fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how are you guys going through and blending everything out? What's the best method you found to do that, to kind of smooth out the transitions and kind of conceal those?
Everything from like burrs and sanding and just all different. I mean, it's literally the same stuff that you would use if you were just trying to do that with any weld, But the fact that you're doing it around a sculpture that's really organic and been molded by somebody's hands, at some of the stuff he pulls off, it's wow, man, you can't even tell where that seam is, and I don't know how the hell you did that. It looks like somebody's thumbprint is coming across where there used to be a weld. That's crazy, But I mean, he's skilled, and he's got.
Then you polish it all up and put it on display.
Yep, or patina it. A lot of the stuff gets patinas, and he's got a bunch of different patinas that he'll use, and also all the chemical combinations and how all that works. He does all that stuff himself. He doesn't buy patinas. He makes his own patinas. He'll take a handful of iron nails and stick them in acid and end up with a brown patina that he's using on the metal. So it's a lot of heat, a lot of chemicals, and just. I mean, anything from something that looks green like the Statue of Liberty to something that looks shiny with dark parts down in the deep zones. It's really impressive.
That's badass. I did. So I was my wife. We walked through a Hobby Lobby or Home Goods store or whatever, and I do this all the time. She's like, "Oh, I want one of these," and I'm like, "Don't buy that. I can build that." And that's I always say that, but I never build anything. It's I'm just letting her know I can build that. I'm not saying that I will. So finally, at one point, she had enough of my crap, and she was like, "You need to build this weekend." I was like, "All right, done." So I had some old cedar left over from my kids' playground, and I was like, "I want this thing to look weathered." And so I started looking at videos, and I kind of made my own stain with steel wool and vinegar. You got to let it, you fill it up and let it set, for 24 hours. You stir it up, and it makes a really cool stain.
Nice.
And then I applied that, and then hit it with a wire brush to kind of give it that weathered look. It turned out pretty cool.
Yeah,
so it's
awesome,
neat that you're doing it that way versus buying specific chemicals and things.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the other things that's really cool too, is just it's the perfect conglomeration of people in that area, because he's also lucky enough that he's got this woman who she's been doing it her whole life. She's 70 years old, and all she does is patinas. And I mean, he can literally call her up and say, "Hey, I'm looking for this effect. How would I go about doing that?" And she can just go, "Oh, okay, well, let me walk you through it. And use this chemical, use that, do this process, do that." And she can walk him through a chemical recipe to get a specific finish. And she just happens to be in that area as well. And it's it's a really cool, just conglomeration of people wanting to do something and just finding each other. And just, when I found him and realized how close he was to me, I was like, dude, you could have been in Germany or Italy, I still would have come to find you, but you're right here in my
backyard.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really
so
is.
Are you planning on, because I know you do a lot of stuff with kinetics.
Yeah.
So are you going to do a kinetic? Can you do a kinetics bronze sculpture?
No, that's actually my main goal at the end of all this. Right now I'm doing some small bronze pieces, just going through some hard times personally, and sculpted some stuff. I wanted to make them small because I have a lot of people out there now, just with the show and everything, wanting a piece of art. And then when I tell them, okay, well, to commission me to build that, this is the price. Then they go, oh, never mind, I don't want any art.
Yeah.
So I'm making these small bronzes to start, just to make something more affordable, that people can buy. I'm only going to do 150 of them. But the end goal really is to not only, keep making bronze pieces to sell, but also what I really am doing it for and working towards is to eventually make kinetic bronze sculptures. It's actually exactly what I want to do.
Oh, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, so I want to have that beautiful sculpted, traditional, gorgeous bronze work, but have it separated into sections, have that negative space like I usually do in my kinetic work, and then just machine all the mechanics for the inside. A lot of the stuff that I've done as kinetic has been for scrap fest and things. It's made out of junk metal, reclaimed stuff, which is great. It's fun. But I want to do stuff a lot more refined, really, sit down with the lathe in the mill and machine all the components, make beautiful stainless steel skeletons, and then have them fitted on the outside with these bronze floating sections.
And I think there's a lot more stuff you can do with that too, because now you can, incorporate that negative space and those transitions into the mold. Yeah. So when you bang it out, you're not, kind of piecing things together, and you can do a lot more intricate work that way and kind of control your medium at a much more fine-tuned method.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's going to be really cool. I've actually already got an idea for redoing the fox and the hare sculpture that I made a while back. That was just a scrap metal one, but I've got it in mind to redo that one, but do it really beautifully. And what I want to do is also incorporate cams throughout the bodies and do each section of fur like in separate pieces and have them hinged and connected to cams, so it actually looks like muscle rolling beneath fur as it's moving.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So things like that. Yeah, being able to pull out those things that before you're kind of just making up with your mind as you think you kind of see them. But I want to make something that just I want to try to wow myself.
Yeah. I watched a video on I think it's the dude's on YouTube. I think it's King of Random.
Oh.
And he made like a smelting pot. Like he shows you, he puts the refractory cement and all that stuff in there, but then he used a like an old fire extinguisher, like depressurized it, cut the top off, and that's like his what the hell do they call that piece?
Crucible?
Yeah, the crucible.
Yeah.
So he uses that as a crucible.
Nice.
And then he'll smelt down like either aluminum or brass, like old shell casings and stuff like that.
Nice.
So then like he can make stuff like right there on demand, and then he'll cast everything right. He's got like little sand pieces, and he can do that like the sand pours and all that. It's pretty cool.
Hell yeah.
So, I mean, you can do it at your house for. I think he uses when he's done with it, it looks like a plant.
Yeah.
So like his smelting unit. So once he's done with everything, it goes back into like this bucket, and then he puts like a fake plant topper on it because it sits on his back porch.
Yeah.
You'd never be able to tell.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
But yeah, you can kind of like smelt small pieces and stuff on demand. It was pretty cool. So like you can actually get into that for like less than $150. I think is what he had into it.
Yeah, if you're making the stuff yourself, you can do a lot. Yeah, and that's like right now at the shop. Like I'll still do things like that as far as small castings, and I just use my forge that I built out of an old propane tank for melting down metal. And I mean, hell, even the crucible for that, because I wanted to use a ceramic crucible.
Yeah.
Just because using the steel one, you'll get after a while it'll start to from the heat and cooling and everything, and then just the amount of heat that you're putting into it when you're melting stuff down, you'll start to get like flakes and rust and things coming into that. And I got that early on, so I went and bought a ceramic crucible. I couldn't believe how cheap it was. They're really not
Really?
Yeah, you can get them online. You can just go and order a small ceramic crucible, and it's next to nothing. It's this stuff is it's not as like people think about certain things, and it's just like, oh, that seems like way too far out there. But no, when you're making a lot of the stuff yourself, you can do a lot. I mean, oil sand, it's not that expensive.
Yeah.
I literally
and it's reusable too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for a while. Yeah, you just got to go through and just like sieve through it and get it soft again and press your piece in. And I mean, I didn't even make a because normally you would have like your box. So you've got like your wooden box and you put your piece in, and then you sprinkle a separator powder on it, put your other half of the box on there, and then put your sand in, pack that down, and then you can separate them so you can make an actual 3-dimensional mold like that. But I mean, I just have oil sand in a Tupperware container
and
just
it works.
press stuff in it, and it works.
Yeah.
I've even cast and machined motorcycle parts that way, and it doesn't take a lot, like you said. Anybody
making your
can do
own
it.
bike parts and shit.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Well, once upon a time.
Yeah, I watched the guy down in Temple, Texas. We went to the Good of Land Fest, and he was casting like mini anvils, like these little 3-pound anvils.
Oh, nice.
But he'd walk you through the entire process. So he was actually busting brake rotors and then, like smelting them down in this little crucible and everything, and he'd get it, blazing hot, and then he'd pour that into the sand casting, and like 20 minutes later, separate it and pull the piece out, let it cool, and then you just cut the little tab off from where the funnel came in, and then you polish it up, and boom, you're done.
Yeah, that's cool, yeah.
It's pretty slick to watch that. It's like, damn, that's like, how did people come up with this shit back in the day?
Yeah, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think about that all the time, especially some of this stuff is so roundabout. It's like, oh, well, somebody had to come up with this, to then come up with that, to then come up with this, and like you can almost even see the steps like looking back through history. And it's cool.
Same thing with like blacksmithing. Like I'm slowly migrating into that. I got an anvil I keep meaning to resurface. I just don't ever have the time. But that's like the next step. But you start looking at some of these pieces that people built out of, with blacksmithing, you're like, damn, the craftsmanship, the precision, like how? Like you got to build the tools for the tools that you need.
Exactly.
And then you got to build the measuring tools to be able to, figure out what these sizes are and stuff. It's really cool though.
Yeah, well, and that's always part of the fun too. I mean, excuse me, for me anyways, like something that I really love is building tools. Like that's, like even when I was building motorcycle parts and building hardtails and stuff, back when I was running Hammer in Hand, when I owned that, it was, I didn't have a rotary draw bending, so I had to build one. And I just built it out of old car parts and stuff. It ran off a 1-horse motor, but I just used flywheels and starter gears to do like basically a really massive gear reduction. So it was like a 1700 to 1 gear reduction. So this thing spun like once around every minute. Mm-hmm. But that 1-horse motor, because torque is multiplying up, the same that gear ratio does, by the time you got to the end, you had thousands of pounds per square inch of pressure on this die, and it was just all made out of old car parts and stuff. But it worked, and it was like, I remember that moment when I flicked it on and bent that first piece of tube, and it was like, oh my God, it works.
Hell yeah.
It's the fun part. Making tools is a huge part of the fun for me. So,
I was scrolling through Facebook the other day, and this guy made his own power hammer I was looking at blacksmithing tools, but he made his own power hammer, and it's got like a 10-pound sledgehammer head on it, and it's just got like a rotary motor, and the hammer just picks up and drops. So like you can heat your piece up and then put it over there and just it's like on a little rotary thing, and it just lifts it up and slams it.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool, like the stuff that you can build. I was talking to a dude like a while back, a couple years ago, from Red Soul Welding. I think they're based out of Seattle, and they build a lot of their own tools to get and I imagine you do the same thing, to get the look and the appeal on their pieces of like their artwork. They do a lot of stuff for like Neiman Marcus and Macy's and all that stuff, like their sculptures. But there's a lot of standard tools that don't work for that. So you got to like make your own dies and punches and tools and stuff to get that, get that look that you want, because you can't just go down to Home Depot and be like, oh, I need, this tool to make this specific texture or something.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, even on the that big head that I made, Portrait of a Dream. I don't know if you ever saw that one. It's a big head with a bunch of gears coming out of it. Yeah. I had to make my own English wheel for that, because I needed an English wheel that would do something that my English wheel wouldn't do, so I had to build that. So, you're always building tools to get a job done.
I bet you probably save like a lot of like parts and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
From off like miscellaneous shit, because you never know when you're going to need it.
Dude, underneath my stairs, I built like a giant rolling cart that looks like a negative of the stairs, and you can slide it out, and it's just shelves just full of old junk parts that are just like, oh, this is cool.
I might need this
I
one
got to
day.
hang on to this, Oh, this weird ball joint that I found, I got to save that. That's going to be useful,
That's the coolest thing about being like somewhat of a handyman or like a jack of all trades. Is like you run into an issue and you're like, I saved a piece, 3 years ago, and I know, and somehow you know exactly where it's at, and it's like, boom, good thing I didn't throw this away.
Exactly, yeah. It's one of those things. You kind of like sometimes have to question myself, like, okay, am I doing this because it's the right thing to do, or am I just hoarding a bunch of junk?
Or do I have an addiction that I don't want to admit to?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say it's a mix of both. I'd take trips to the scrapyard every few years when it gets too big, too full.
I got a buddy that he's probably hitting up the scrapyard like every day at lunch.
Oh yeah,
just picking up random shit.
You never know what you're gonna find. The scrapyard is like one of the funnest places to go for anybody. Like I've even took my nephew there once years ago to take scrap there, but we were just walking around in the yard looking and finding things, and I mean, you find anything. The nicest and biggest ball peen hammer that I have, the thing's massive. Like it looks like it's like a drilling hammer. The thing's got to be like 5 pounds.
Jeez.
It's like a big,
it's
a big
lot of
head.
ball peen.
It's a huge ball peen. I didn't even know they made ones that big. And I've come across this head, and it was just rusted in the dirt. And, things like that. Like, you'll find the craziest stuff. And it's cheap. You're paying scrap prices for it. And you just never know what kind of treasure somebody threw out. Could be like a pair of spreaders that belonged to somebody's grandpa 100 years ago. They're just sitting and rusting, and you oil them up and pull them out, and it's like, look at what I found.
Yeah.
And it cost me 50 cents to
you
get
had
this
that,
out of here.
Didn't you have that stapler the other day?
Yeah, that stapler.
That thing was freaking. Did you
Isn't
find
that
wire
crazy?
for it?
I actually just what I did was I had to go through and like spec the holes, and then just find a wire that was the right diameter to work. Because I couldn't find actual.
I would imagine
wire.
the aircraft wire would work pretty good for that.
Yeah, I mean essentially that's what it was. It was just I just had to find the right diameter, which was a little little trickier. But once I found it, it was like okay. And then I wrote that on the bottom, like here's the size wire for future reference.
Yeah.
But it's got like a little clutch and little jaws, and it grabs the wire, feeds it through. And then as it's clipping it off, it's folding it down. So it clips it off after it grabs it, then folds it into a staple, and then puts it into the paper. So it's like manufacturing the staples as it goes. It's the coolest thing I've ever.
I watched your video on it. I was like, that thing's freaking badass.
Yeah.
But like again, what was it? Was like 1950s or
30s.
1930s.
Yeah.
How the hell did they build that type of stuff back in the 1930s? It's like
it's crazy.
Precise, stuff that they're working with, because all the mechanisms and everything that they're so tiny. And now you buy a stapler, it might work for a year.
Yeah.
You got a stapler from 1930s, you throw new wire in it, and it like cuts and makes its own staples as it goes.
Staples, yep.
Shit just doesn't last like it used to.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it even had on the bottom, it was really, one of the really cool things was on the bottom, it had different dates written on it, like scratched in it with like a stylus for all the different times that have been serviced over the years. And the newest one was from like 1957 or something. But yeah, like has a manufacturing stamp from 1933.
But so you went ahead and put your 2022 service date on there, right?
I haven't yet, but I'm going to.
You need to.
Yeah.
It's a piece of history, man.
Yeah.
It's like going from like one, literally spanning across different generations.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is when I saw it, I mean, it looks like a stapler. So I saw it and I was like, oh, a stapler. That's a really interesting looking stapler. And then upon picking it up, because I was like, but wait a minute, there's way too much going on here.
Yeah, there's a lot more going on here instead of push and fold.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So. But that's part of it. It's just like a lot of times people, I think when they're looking at stuff and thinking like, how did somebody do this? Well, the thing is like we've always had that kind of precision machining going all the way back to like, the beginning of watches and clocks. Like you look at some of these like really old, like couple 100-year-old engine wheel turning engine. And basically that's what they call the gears, and a watch would be the wheels. Mm-hmm. So a wheel turning engine is like a little tabletop lathe, and they'd have these little like hand crank or treadle power lathes, and they could do like just as intricate as stuff as we can. A lot of people look at the things we have today and they think, oh, you need computers to be able to do this stuff, but you don't. No, and even if you have a computer to help you do it, it still boils down to the same stuff that you could do by hand. And the machining, all the machining components are still there. There's just a computer running it instead of a person turning wheels.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've been making the craziest, most precise, instrumentation for forever. Some of the coolest and nicest things I find are just really, really old, and it's mind-blowing how, I mean, I'm a big museum fan, going and seeing how people used to do things 100 years ago, and seeing the craftsmanship is just outstanding.
Yeah, it's really cool. So like I was telling at Temple, Texas, when you go through, it was held at the early days tractor convention. Mm-hmm. So like all the tractors and stuff are still there. Nice. There's actually, I'm part of the Florida Association of Blacksmith Artists, and they so it's just like a group that I suck at blacksmithing. Like I screwed up a pair of tongs pretty good the first time I built them, but it's at like a heritage park. So you go through and they got like an old sawmill. Like the entire blacksmith shop is like ye old blacksmith shoppy, and everything's still in there and somewhat functional. Yeah. I mean, you just clean it up and get it going.
Yeah,
but I mean,
cool.
it's really cool to go in there and see like this is how they used to build stuff and put things together, and it's all like historical pieces, and you're like, damn, like you learn to appreciate that older stuff.
Oh yeah,
because it's how we got to where we are today. Like, I mean, a lot of your artwork you did by hand for a number of years, and then you incorporated a CNC plasma cutter. Yeah. You don't have to. I mean, you were always able to do that work. This is just going to help you get it done a little bit quicker, maybe a little bit more precise, a little less headache.
Oh, absolutely.
Once you get around the learning curve of figuring out how to do it, it's supposed to save time.
Yeah, once you got it figured out, it definitely does. But yeah, at first it was definitely a learning curve because I'm not computer savvy. So figuring all that out was a bit of a pain. But yeah, I mean, now it's one of those things. Okay, I could sit here and I could cut out 1,000 leaves by hand with a plasma cutter, like no problem. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm pretty good with a handheld plasma cutter. Nope, it's not an issue. But if I'm making the exact same leaf over and over, and I can plug it into a computer and just go, yep, give me 1,000 of those.
I could draw it once and then say, hey, I need 1,000 and hit start and walk away.
Yeah, there would be nothing that would make the sculpture any better by sitting there and doing that by hand and taking a week to do it instead of an hour. Like so it definitely has its place. It seems like there's a lot of people out there that are kind of like that, purist mindset where it's like, oh no, like it all has to be done by hand or it doesn't count. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense if you're doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, I know Adam Booth, he does a lot of stuff. I mean, he's big on manual. Yeah. Like all his machines is all manual mills and manual lathes. Yeah. But I mean, he prides himself. But I mean, that's the type of work that he does.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, that's like his zone. Yeah. So he really enjoys doing it that way. He doesn't want to incorporate he could bring a CNC in there at any time and just run it. But
he
likes that
doing
old
it by hand. Yeah, exactly. And my lathe is from 1946, and I got an old mill too, and those are all by hand. Like, I love doing things by hand. Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's just doing the exact same thing over and over 1,000 times by hand, I'm not such a fan of.
Yeah, no, it becomes a pain in the ass after a while.
Yeah, if I'm making one thing, I love doing it by hand.
So like when I was doing fabrication work, I always liked batches of like 20 to 30.
Yeah.
Anything after that, it's nice, fuck, like I'm tired. Yeah. Like, but by the time you get done to the 29th, 30th one, I mean, like the welds are spot on perfect, but then you're like, okay, I need something different. That's what was cool about like when I worked with the ironworkers, because Monday, Tuesday, I'm working on this. Wednesday, Thursday, it might be something completely different.
Oh, sure.
And then Friday's like now we're not fabricating. We're like going to go do some structural shit.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was cool because it was always a mix. Like I don't like getting stuck in building the same parts. there's people out there that sit in a cubicle, and there's nothing wrong with that, and they manufacture and weld the same frickin' part for years on end, and they're completely happy doing it.
Oh yeah.
I can't get into that mindset.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the biggest thing is really just, it's like with anything. If you are happy doing that, then do it. You know, I mean, it's something that I always like to ask people, you know, and it's, if you could do anything you want with the rest of your life, what would you be doing? And whatever the answer to that is, then find a way to do that. You don't even have to like quit your job and jump out and go right into it. You can literally take baby steps. Like, okay, well, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and that'll get me from here to here. Mm-hmm. And then I can do this, and that'll get me from here to here. And you could be working your job that whole time. But the whole thing is, you know, life is short. And if you're not doing what you love and you're not doing what you want to be doing, then you should do that.
Yeah, find a purpose.
Yeah, I mean, people have midlife crises because they get to a certain point in their life and they go, what have I done with my life? Mm-hmm. Like, who wants that? Who wants to be that? And then nobody gets to the end of their life and goes, hey, I kept all the bills paid. Like,
who gives a shit?
You kept the bills
Everybody
paid.
pays the bills.
Yeah, you weren't happy. Like, it's not worth it. Yeah, you can do what you love to do and make a living at it. There's ways to do that, even if you're doing it for somebody else. And if you love sitting in a cubicle and welding the same thing over and over, like, more power to you. Do it.
Yeah. Are you a fan of Alan Watts? You ever listen to his work?
Alan Watts. I don't know if I...
You got to check out Alan Watts. Yeah, I'll share a YouTube link with you when we get off here. But I mean, that's like what he says is he was like a college professor. That, you know, that I can't even remember what he taught, but like he would have students like, hey, you know, I know, what am I going to do? And he's like, well, if money wasn't an object, you know, if money wasn't a thing, what would you do tomorrow?
Yeah.
What would you do with your life tomorrow?
Yeah.
You know, like what vocation? What would you get into?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Go do that.
Yeah.
And then once you find that passion, the money's going to come. You're going to figure out a way to generate income off of that. Yeah. And then money's not an issue anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, and that's the whole thing is you'd be surprised how many people, when you ask them that question, they don't have an answer. And it's like, okay, well then find that answer. If you're not happy doing what you're doing, but you don't know what you want to do, then find that out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing now. Like I left the school that I was at, which I was passionate about teaching. Yeah. But I got put into a management position, and I was not passionate about that because it took me off of the tools, away from the students. So like I got into my own thing. So I do the podcast full time now, but I do weld inspections on the side, and then I also do fabrication. Yeah. And I love that because I'm not getting bored with it because it's like a little bit of podcasting, a little bit of weld certifications, or you know, consulting, and then a little bit of fabrication. So I get to bounce around quite a bit, you know, and just keep my mind constantly moving and, you know, keeping it up to date. You know, I always say, if you rest, you rust.
Oh, sure,
like you can't stop moving. You got to keep pushing. And I like pushing in different directions. Yeah. But I've found, you know, a couple of things that I'm passionate about that I love doing, and now I just do it for myself. And I figured out a way to make money off of that, so I can still pay the bills, but I don't have to be stuck in a job that, you know, I'm not passionate about. Yeah. I can wake up every morning and be like, let's do this.
Hell yeah. Yeah, there's nothing like that. Yeah, that feeling of getting up and getting excited about going to work, like, that's when you know you're doing the right thing. Yeah.
And it's scary initially. You're like, man, like, am I going to be able to keep this ship up and running and, like, still continue to pay the bills because the tax man cometh, you know?
Yes, he does. Yeah. Yeah. That's, I mean, that when I started my shop in 2009, it was a bike shop originally, built custom motorcycles and stuff. And, I mean, I literally started that job. Before that, I was working at a gas station, making $7.50 an hour. And so it was like a, I've got nothing left to lose kind of moment because the economy just got so bad. That's how I ended up in a gas station job. And then I just like, it was one of those things where like the first day that I was open, instead of being excited, I was terrified. You know, I'd made a promise that I was not going to let that shop fail, that I'd make it work. I'd figure out a way to make it work. And it was just like, I was standing there looking at empty shelves in this building that's going to be costing me $900 a month to rent, and I'm looking around just like, how?
Yeah. How am I going to make this work?
How am I going to pull this off? Yeah. So, one day at a time.
Yeah. I had that dude, the financial advisor, Richard Roybal, came on the show to talk about that. You know, like just financing. Like, how do you get your finances in order and stuff like that, so you can live like a good life.
Sure.
And one of the things his grandfather told him was like, it doesn't matter what you do in this life. Don't work for anybody else. He said, you're too smart to work for somebody else. Work for yourself. No matter what it takes, no matter how hard the struggle is, work for yourself. And I mean, that's kind of what he's done. You know, he worked for a couple different places. He's like, this isn't for me. Opened up a barber shop, ran that for a while. That was successful. Sold that whole business, and then got into like doing financial advising and stuff. And I mean, like, but he's happy doing that.
Yeah, that's what
now he's working for himself. But you know, that initial jump, it's scary as shit. And I know a lot of people that have taken it, and that's always the big thing. You know, I've said it before, like, what if I fail?
Yeah.
Well, what if you soar? You're not going to know if you don't take that leap.
Well, yeah. Plus, I mean, again, like what we were saying before, it doesn't really matter fail or soar. If you're doing what you love, just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The money's going to come.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't and you do fail, it doesn't matter. You still have that experience. It's still part of being alive. Like, I think that's another thing too that people get into their heads about is like, yeah, but what if I don't make it? Like, that's okay. It's okay. Do it again. Do something different. Do whatever you want to do. Like, you could literally just go, you know what, I want to just walk around and just hitchhike across the whole world, and that's what I'm going to do with the rest of my life, and just, get a job on a ship and get from this country to that country, just keep moving around because that's what I want to do. Fine, do that. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. If you fail, you change your mind, you want to do something else, do that. But don't ever be scared of the things that you don't know because, one, you can't know them anyways. Mm-hmm. And worrying about things that you don't have any control over isn't going to help you in any way, shape, or form.
Boost your anxiety.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, just let go of all of that. Just do what you want to do what you love, and
I followed this veteran on, I guess he got out of the military, and he was like just super stressed out, like anxiety ridden and everything, and his wife told him, like, if you could just like pack up tomorrow and just do whatever you wanted to do, what would you do? And he's like, I'd sell everything, buy a camera, and just travel the country and take pictures.
Yeah.
She said, let's do it.
Do it.
He sold everything in his house.
Yeah.
Bought like a little camper and like a badass camera, and that's what they do. They just travel around and take pictures of shit.
Yeah, and I guarantee they don't regret making that decision.
No, they're happy as shit. He's having a freaking blast. And if he gets tired of that, you can always move back and then find a job and, set up shop and, have something a little bit more permanent. But, while you're doing that, he's not going to have that midlife crisis because he's out there, kicking ass and taking names down, doing what he loves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like one of those things where with the, what was it, that the lottery got up to like $2 billion or whatever it's at right now. And now I saw that in the news and it was like, wow, if I won $2 billion, if I played the lottery and won $2 billion, like what would I do? And I realized I'd be doing the exact same thing. I'm already doing it.
Just
like,
in a bigger shop.
That's how you know. That's how you know you're doing it right. If you win the lottery and you'd still be doing what you're doing, then you're doing it right.
Buy a bigger shop, a couple extra tools, and just keep doing what I'm doing now.
Keep doing it. Yeah.
Put the bills on autopilot, and you ain't got to worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you got to stay. Like I couldn't like hit the lottery and just. All right, I'm done, and just go on vacation the rest of my life. I don't think I'd be happy doing that.
It'd be terrible.
I'd be burnt out by the time I hit Fiji.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those things, man. Like, I don't know, it's like being here, Everything that I did, like trying to start a shop, trying to build motorcycles, still continuing with the artwork and the sculptures, that all led to this. Like, I wouldn't be sitting here across from you talking to you. I wouldn't be here at FabTech. I never even would have come to FabTech, probably. Mm-hmm. Even though I fabricated things, I had the notion that sticking around in my shop and just working all the time was the best way to, to really get things done and do anything. And then it wasn't until I got out there, to FabTech in Chicago and realized, oh no, getting out there and actually meeting with people, talking with people, seeing all these people that I know, that I follow, that follow me, like just, it's like, it's a big part of doing what we do. And I never would have done any of that if it hadn't been for what happened all those years ago. You just, one thing happens, another thing happens, and you find yourself in situations where you're just like, how the hell did I even get here? And it's a great feeling.
And that's the thing that like nobody sees. Everybody looks at people that have been given a chance like that, and they're like, oh, it must be nice.
Yeah.
Was it nice when you were pumping gas at $7 a gallon?
Yeah.
Was it nice when like you tried to build a bike shop from scratch with your bare hands and like no support system and no money? It's not nice. Nobody sees the struggle. They see. The outcome. They see, he's on Netflix. He's on like the number one streaming platform in the world. Yeah. Oh, it must be nice. No. Worked your ass off to get there.
Sure, yeah. But it also was nice. Yeah.
But it was it's nice now. But I mean, like taking that initial chance, like when you were like, this could fail.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, that led to a new opportunity. You took that opportunity, you grasped it, you did something with it, and that led to another opportunity.
Exactly.
And everything just keeps building. But you've got to put in the work, the time, the effort, the hustle.
Yeah, everybody starts somewhere.
And nobody sees that.
You don't get to see that.
No, they see all the cool stuff.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, the results. Yeah.
It's like, no, check out the path that had to be blazed. Because, like a lot of people, they take, the path less traveled. Instead of the path of least resistance. Like water. Water takes the path of least resistance. You got to take a different road because in order to have things that others don't have, you got to be willing to do things that others won't do.
Yeah, sure, exactly. Yeah. And I mean that's really That's really what it all boils down to. Yeah, take chances, jump out there, do something different, do what you want to do what you love, and yeah, I mean, if you do that, yeah, you're not going to regret it. There's
now, have you like has that? I'm guessing. Has the being on Netflix and everything, has that kind of helped you out with your career, get some more notoriety, get some more knocks on the door, and and different pieces and stuff?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I was building large public sculptures and stuff like before that, but just in doing that, just in getting more recognition. I mean, yeah, it's like with any kind of artist, whether you're a singer-songwriter or if you're a fabricator, a sculptor, a painter. Like the more notoriety you have, like the easier it is to get your work out there, and that recognition, that is a big part of what you're looking for. So yeah, being on Netflix helped out a lot. Yeah, there's people out there, like I still bump into people that are like, oh, are you that guy from that Netflix show? And it's a good feeling, and it's also just like, it's also bringing, what's really cool to me is I'm seeing it bringing a lot of people to something that they hadn't even thought of before. I've got a lot of people who've gotten a hold of me and said things like, I never even thought about somebody making metal art, and it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. If you look for it, it's everywhere, and you'll see that, but so many people just, going through their daily lives without having any interaction with that. They didn't even think of it before, and now they're like wanting to buy a welder and like start to weld things, or their kid wants to, and like, hey, what kind of welder should I buy for my kid for Christmas, because they want to start doing this stuff because they love watching what you're doing. And that's all worth it.
That's the coolest thing.
That makes it all worth it.
Inspiring other people to get into it.
Oh, it's great, man. Yeah. Especially if they never even thought of it. They're like, I didn't even realize this was a thing, and now I want to do it. Yeah. And I'm jumping in to try it. And it's like, that's amazing.
I even noticed at the school, because of that show, a lot of people are getting into welding. Yeah. Maybe not for like the artwork and sculpting, but like, like the whole thing, like back in the early 2000s with like Orange County Choppers and West Coast Choppers and Jesse James and like all that. That did a lot for the welding and fabrication industry, because a lot of people got into it, because like you said, you look around, like welding's freaking everywhere. Like you can't like walk out of your house and return back to it without seeing or interacting with something that's been welded.
Exactly.
But nobody really pays attention to it. You throw it up on a TV screen and they're like, here's how this stuff is built. That show How It's Made on History Channel, that was freaking awesome. It inspires people to say, hey, you know what? I want to get it. I want to do that. Yeah. Like, I'm tired of, like, running the freaking numbers here in my cubicle. Yeah. I want to go, like, cut some shit up and weld it together.
Yeah. I want to get my hands in it. Yeah. Yeah. I want to build something, create something. Yeah, exactly.
And it's cool to inspire others. And then, now they've got a resource, because they can reach out to you and you can kind of guide them through and help them along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's it's like with Scrap Fest, which is something that I love to do. I've been doing it for years, but like the biggest thing for me is it's that inspiration, seeing that moment. Like, I remember when I was a kid and I realized that everything that I was looking at in the world that was like, a tangible thing that wasn't made by nature was made by a person. Like, I remember that moment. I remember being like, oh, wait a minute, this doesn't just come out of like an Acme factory like in a cartoon. Like, I mean, I was probably like 5 when I realized this, but I still remember having that aha moment where I was like, people built all this. I can build anything I want to build. And it was like, phew, like fireworks going off in my head. And then it was like, okay, I'm building everything. And that was, I get to see that moment in little kids when they're like seeing one of these kinetic pieces made out of junk. You turn a crank and an elephant like lifts his head and swings his trunk around. And you'll just see these little kids standing there with their eyes wide open like, oh my God, somebody built that. I could build that. Like, there's possibility here that I never even thought of before. And it's like, seeing that moment and remembering that moment in myself and seeing it in another little kid when their eyes light up like that, it's like, God, it's enough to bring a tear to your eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I volunteered, to teach welding and stuff, and that's the coolest thing is like the little kids. Yeah. They get in there and they get all excited and they're like jumping up and down, because they they made a weld.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really cool to see that moment. Like they get inspired to get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing like that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So, like, do you have, like, when you do Scrap Fest and everything, like, tell me a little bit about that. What's that all about?
Well, Scrap Fest actually is probably a big part of what got me onto the Netflix show, because it was actually pieces that I'd made for Scrap Fest that got recognition.
Oh, wow.
And when they called me onto the show, like, I honestly thought it was a joke. I thought they were, like, trying to, like, get, like, a scam over on me or something, because they got a hold of me and they're like, oh, yeah, we want you for this Netflix show. He's like, I have 2,000 followers on Instagram. Like, you're messaging me on Instagram. Like, you want to put me on a Netflix show. Like, I'm not giving you any of my information.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
Just send us your credit card number.
Exactly. Like, no thanks. So yeah, I thought it was all fake, but it was through that Scrap Fest. The things that I built for that, those were the things that they were most interested in seeing, just because of the kinetics and stuff. But yeah, so what Scrap Fest is you go to this junkyard, and this was all started by David Such years ago. But you go into this scrapyard, and it's Friedland's Industries. And the scrapyard's been there. It's like in the middle of the city in Lansing, in Michigan, the capital of Michigan. And you're like, why is there a scrapyard in the middle of the city? But the thing is, when it was built, it wasn't in the middle of the city. It was like on the outskirts of town. But then the town got built up around it because it's been there for so long. Like the guy, R.A. Olds, the guy who started Oldsmobile, he used to actually go into that scrapyard and get scrap metal for the concept cars he was building in his garage in the 1800s. Yeah, it's that old. Yeah, and so that's the scrapyard we go into, and they blow an air horn. You get 1 hour. You run around. You grab 500 pounds of scrap, whatever you want to grab, and then they blow the air horn again. Like, nope, that's it. You got to stop. So it's like a game show, and then you got to take that 500 pounds back to your shop, and then it used to be 2 weeks, but now you've got a month, and you build whatever you can out of it, and then you bring them all back, and they shut down the whole street and fill the street with all these sculptures, and then they just have like this big huge party over the weekend with all these sculptures, and then they vote on who wins, and
that's
it's a
cool.
whole big thing. Yeah.
How many people participate in this? Like, how many sculptures are they getting?
Usually about 20.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a lot for if I
Yeah.
did that in my neighborhood, I'd be the only jackass out there with a sculpture in my front yard.
Well, that's the thing, is that's kind of how it started. Like, it actually started piggybacking on a Festival of the Moon and Sun, which is like a wine tasting festival, and that's where it started.
Tell me about that. That's where you built like that fire tree or something?
Yeah. So it was basically just. Oh no, that was more recent. That was for like a regional Burning Man.
Okay.
The fire tree thing, yeah. And that was actually some buddies of mine that like set a tree on fire that I had already built years ago. But now I'm into the idea of like, okay, yeah, let's put some fire on my sculptures and take them to Burning Man. That's cool.
That'd be badass.
But no, with this, it was there was just like a wine festival that were just like in a parking lot, like a tiny little festival, a couple of pop-up tents, and like here's all these different regional wines, because Michigan grows a lot of grapes, makes a lot of wine, and so it was like a place for wineries to get together and like have people try their wines. And then when David Such had the idea to start Scrap Fest, he just walked in and asked the guy who owned Friedland's, like, hey, I've got an idea for an art show. Like, are you interested? And the guy was like, sure, yeah, I'll donate scrap metal for that. That sounds cool. And so they're like, okay, we're in. And they did it. And it was just a couple of sculptures in this parking lot. And then it just kept growing. And the more people heard about it and saw sculptures, they were like, what is this? How do I become a part of this? This looks like fun. Then the more it just kept getting bigger and bigger, until now they've shut down the whole street and have a whole huge thing. And actually, with recognition from the show and everything, I started getting sponsors, which I didn't even realize was a thing until I was on the show. It was actually Ray and Tom. They both had sponsors already previous to being on the show, and so they were talking about that like in the green room, and I was like, what do you mean sponsors? What is that? And they're like, oh, well, they just give you tools as long as you tell people you're using their tools. Like, they're just giving you for free. Like, oh, well, okay, well, that's nice. So now that's
a lot better than buying them.
It's really nice, especially when you're scraping together pennies to buy a 20-year-old welder, used off Craigslist. It's like, now I can get one for free, brand new. Okay, yeah, that's nice. But yeah, so with the sponsorships and stuff, I actually got sponsors in on Scrap Fest, because Scrap Fest was, like I said, it was a huge part of what started getting me out there, getting me more recognition as a sculptor. And so I pulled in sponsors that I have, like I pulled Lincoln in, and Lincoln Electric. Now they're sponsoring Scrap Fest. So now, instead of just winning cash prizes, people that are going there and competing also are, have a chance of winning a welder. And some of these people are doing this with like equipment that they're borrowing or equipment from the school. There's some younger people and stuff, so they have opportunities to win their own equipment. Like, and how cool is that if you get to go to a show, an art show, build something out of scrap metal, and your first welder you ever got, you won for a piece of artwork that you made for a welding competition. Like, that's cool.
Yeah,
like,
that's the machine you're not getting rid of.
Yeah, and so it just keeps growing. It keeps, it's getting bigger and bigger all the time, and it's just a blast.
So when is it?
It's every year in July.
Okay, it makes sense. It's pretty cold up there where you're at.
Yeah, yeah. It's Michigan's, with that lake effect, it's the weirdest thing. Like, it's definitely like, you'll hear people say things like, yeah, if you don't like the weather, stay around for another day. It'll change.
Florida's the same way. You don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes.
Exactly, yeah. But it's also like a crazy swing, and it can get like below zero in the winter, and then over 100 in the summer. Yeah,
so that was the weird thing. I went up to Lincoln Electric to cover World Skills, and I was hanging out with my buddy Charlie Cross, and he's probably like 20, 30 minutes from Cleveland.
Yeah.
but he's like really, right there on like, he gets the full effect of the lake effect.
Yeah.
So we get up to his house, and it's like, you get a couple little snow flurries and stuff. Mm-hmm. We were only there for, 4 or 5 hours. By the time we left, there was like a foot of snow on the ground. There was no snow in the forecast.
Yeah.
We walk outside, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty cool, but then like 20 minutes down the road, there's no snow.
Mm-hmm.
It's just weird how that whole lake effect works.
Oh, yeah, they're big. People don't realize, like, people hear lake and they think about lake. Like, this is like our local lake. We like take the fishing boat down there with my uncle. And no, it's like.
But usually you can see the other side.
These are big.
These
lakes.
are big. They're great lakes.
Yeah, they are great lakes. Yeah, like even just Superior by itself, the thing's like 1,300 feet deep, and it's so large. Just that one lake. If you took all the water out of that lake and stuck it on the continent of the United States, it'd put it under 5 feet of water. Most people don't realize that. Like that's a lot of water. That's insane, and that's in one lake.
They're saying if you drained Lake Superior, it would take, like, if you completely drained it, and then you put in, if you started off with like a tablespoon and you doubled it every day, so the next day is 2, then 4, the next thing you know, it would take like 86,000 years to fill it up if you doubled that amount. You wouldn't start seeing any effect until like 500 years, like the entire lake would be like somewhat damp.
Yeah.
And massive.
Very massive, yeah. I mean, that's like, I think actually the last time we were on, we were talking about Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yeah, Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, I mean, you got waves that are like big enough.
Capsize a freaking massive freighter.
Yeah, freighter the size of a football field, and they can split it in half, like 35-foot waves. That's on a lake. That's insane.
So speaking of Edmund Fitzgerald, did you ever do the song?
I never did.
Oh man,
I'll do it.
I was checking weekly, and I was like, I'll just check back in a couple of months.
See, that's how I kept you looking at my stuff.
Yeah. So that works. It keeps coming back. You gotta build up that interest.
I printed off the lyrics and the chords, and I meant to do it, and then I got busy with something, and I actually came across them before I came here, and I was like, oh damn it, I'm going to do a podcast with him, and I totally never did that.
Yeah, it's the worst request line ever.
Ever.
So the funny thing is, I was chatting with some of the AWS folks before we got on, and one of the ladies asked the other one, she's like, do you know who Ivan is? And then we're like, your voice came up, and I was like, oh yeah, he does like acoustic music and all this other stuff, and I was like, he really needs to get into like reading bedtime stories, because I think that would be freaking great.
Yeah. Well, you point me in a direction where there's someone who wants to pay me for
link up with Ray.
Reading books on tape.
Link up with Ray. She just released the kids' book.
Yeah, there you go.
That'd be a good one.
Do the book on tape.
Yeah, there you go. The audio books.
Yeah, there you go.
You just can't listen to them while you're driving because it's very soothing. You'll pass out.
Nice.
Well, damn, man, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I appreciate you coming out. I hope you enjoy the rest of FabTech. I got to beat feet down to the other booth and record some more stuff. But yeah, it was great having you out. I'm sure if you got time, stop by the Hard Rock Live tonight.
All right, absolutely, man. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
All right, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate being on. I appreciate you having me. Hell yeah.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Be sure to check out new episodes of Weld Wednesdays with AWS the first Wednesday of every month. For more information on how you can get involved with AWS, check out aws.org. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your week. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every well better than your last.